Hello, Mitchell. We are back, and now it's all about the World Lacrosse Box Championships. So we've shifted gear from outdoor into indoor. You've been doing such a tremendous job on the calls.
Thank you.
Obviously, special event. Paint us a picture. Take us there. You've been up in Utica. Games going on seemingly from morning to night.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's it been like?
So I think to me the best thing is, for the most part, everything is all under one roof. Once you get there, this Nexus Center is unlike anything you've ever seen. We've coached a lot of box lacrosse, gone to a lot of box tournaments. There's nothing like this, at least in the United States. So you've got the Nexus One, which is a giant rink, probably about a 4,000 seat capacity, seating on one side. You've got the upper level where you can watch down from up top. You got seating on the other side and then some press boxes. So that's a great setup. That's kind of the premier Nexus arena. And that is where a lot of the big games have happened, especially on the women's side early. There were some really big games there. Then you've got just next door, you go just under a door, and there's two back-to-back rinks. And that one is great. There's not a lot of seating, but there's an upper deck where you can look down. It's an incredible view. Looking down on the floor, there's a media bridge right in the middle. So you've got cameras on one side, cameras on the other. Gets a little confusing with the whistles when you're up top, but on the floor with the glass, you can't really hear you know what's going on in your game. You can't really hear the other games, most players have said. Both of those are turf as well. And then adjacent, you go to a loading dock, and adjacent, you've got the Adirondack Bank Center, which is a 5,000 seat AHL hockey arena. It's where the Utica Comets and New Jersey Devils affiliate play. And it is actually, that is the model that they based Madison Square Garden off of. So you look up in the rafters, and they've got the scoreboard in the middle, and it's got the cables that hang from the middle. If anyone's been to Madison Square Garden, very reminiscent of a miniature Madison Square Garden. But the vibe in there is so cool. And just like the atmosphere of
Very intimate, it seems.
Very intimate. Everyone's under one roof, so everyone's around watching. I was saying, I lamented I didn't take a picture with every old teammate, coach, lacrosse friend that I saw over the course of the days that I was there this past weekend, because I probably ran into 30 to 40 people that I played with, played against, coached me.
Reunion, a box reunion.
It was a box reunion. I say lacrosse is a niche sport, and then box is like niche within the niche.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool opportunity to see some faces, young and old. And then have there's players there from every team watching each of those games.
Right.
You mentioned you're kind of there from 9 a.m.
There's nothing else to do.
There's not a whole lot else going on in Utica. Shout out to Utica.
I wasn't trying to take a shot. I'm just saying, like, if you're there, you might as well go watch the other teams, right?
Yeah. And there's some of the best players in the world. We were laughing, like Jacob Brindle, the goalie from England, just started playing a year ago. Like, can you imagine if you just started playing basketball? Like, hey, by the way, you're gonna go one-on-one with LeBron James tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, that sounds pretty good, but also pretty horrible. So some of those cool, unique experiences and interactions between players. You've also got the women's side where the U.S. and Canadian women have these stars from the AU Pro, and they're getting to play against women who've grown up watching them, which is another cool, unique aspect of this. And then as soon as the game's over, you're in the Nexus Center or in the arena, kind of talking with them, talking shop, signing autographs, and it's a really unique, special thing. I think huge shout out to World Lacrosse. Scott Neese has really been behind the scenes, and Connor Wilson, which is another friend to Trilogy, getting to spend a lot of time with those guys. They've done an unbelievable job of making it seamless. And the only thing I regret is that I have to drive 3.5 hours to get there every time.
Well, appreciate you painting that picture. Let's get to some rooting interests here. We'll start with the red, white, and blue. We'll start on the men's side. So, I think a lot has been made about this is the best, USA team ever, arguably. And no offense, I know you've represent the country, but this is the best team. It's pretty much entirely made up of players at NLL. Most successful to date. Obviously, we're getting to the playoffs. They came up short against Canada, but had their best showing. What has been the biggest difference that you've seen with this Team USA versus ones that you've either participated in or seen compete?
I think the number one thing is the top to bottom box IQ.
Yeah.
You mentioned every player is now in the NLL. CJ Kirst and Joey Spallina, the lone
they'll be there eventually.
Soon enough, right?
Yeah.
Soon enough. And then Joel White, no longer in the NLL, but had a storied career there. So there is just like no knowledge gap.
Yeah.
It's just experience. That's the only difference right now is the Canadian team and the Haudenosaunee team have had sticks in their hands since birth, playing box.
Yeah.
Americans have had sticks in their hands since birth and maybe played box since high school, right? So that gap is narrowing. on the IQ side. Goaltending is another big element that is a big jump for the United States. Having Goa Abrams, who was there, he was on the team last time, but he's looked lights out. I mean, he just got picked up by Halifax for the NLL, and you got to imagine he's putting together a nice case for getting some minutes there. And then Drew Hutchinson stepped in yesterday and played, 2 days ago, and played phenomenally, and really kind of like gave him a chance to come back towards the end of that game. So having stout goaltending, this unbelievably athletic defense, which athletic was always the term they used to describe, but now the IQ ratcheting up a notch. You see them making some box-specific plays on offense, eliminating transition, doing all those little things, and a lot of special teams. They looked really good in special teams, scoring shorthanded, scoring a couple power play goals against Canada. So that's where like the IQ piece really comes into play. You mix that with the athleticism, and that's a dangerous U.S. team heading into the playoffs.
A little bit of a forward look here to the playoffs, and with all due respect to the quarterfinals, I'm just going to gloss over those. And we've got a semifinal rematch, which is going to be just, I think, a classic. And then Canada maybe just is steamrolling towards the championship. They've never lost in this event. So what do you see in the big rematch? And then do you see anything from Canada's perspective that, like, is there any weakness? Is there any chance to exploit that? Do you see any reason that they wouldn't take home another championship?
Well, so let's just rewind 1 second to Canada's path. They have to play the winner of England versus Czech Republic. And that game, that England-Czech game, that's coming up. We're recording this Thursday, midday. That game is about to happen.
Yep.
I'm curious. I think Czech Republic, if they play their best game, could knock off England, which would kind of disrupt the
We'll edit
order.
this if that doesn't happen.
But either way, I agree. I think Canada is going to be cruising to that medal game. To the medal game. And the only area that I think there may be an opportunity for any team to beat them is they have a three-headed monster in goal, and they're all incredibly good, but they're sharing minutes, right? So it's not like anyone is getting into a flow. This morning in their quarterfinal game, Nick Rose played. Previous game, Christian Del Bianco played. Previous game before that, it was Dylan Ward. So
it's a unique approach.
It is a unique approach, and it's a load management, but at the same time, you kind of want to get into a flow. Sometimes the best NLL teams, the teams that win, are with a hot goaltender. It's like, how do you get hot if you're not playing multiple games? We'll see. I have a feeling they might dress the same goalie in the semifinals that they put into the medal game, at least for the starter. But that would be the only one thing that I think maybe that's the wild card that you can exploit. The other thing, they've struggled a little bit on the penalty kill. So if you can remain disciplined and draw penalties, that's the one area where I've actually been a little surprised that Canada has not. Power play, just as deadly as expected. I mean, you look at those shooters, it's unreal. The ball movement, unreal. But when you look over at the power play, they gave up a few power play goals against England. They gave up a few power play goals against the Haudenosaunee that let them get back into that game. Like, that's the one area where I think, other than goaltending,
they got to stay out of the box.
They got to stay out of the box. But they can control that, right? That's a part they can control. United States, Canada, super physical game. Would love to see that in the medal game. Haudenosaunee, Canada, always a legendary matchup. So either way, I think we're in for a treat on Sunday at 4:30 p.m.
Let's shift gears to the women's. It's been awesome. It's been just so cool to see the evolution of box lacrosse and the inclusion of the women. And you look at Team USA, and like, I think everybody was kind of like, what can we expect? Like, there hasn't been a lot of experience, and holy smokes, they have just been steamrolling. A blip, I would call it, maybe a speed bump, kind of here and there, but they have been lights out. What have you seen from Team USA on the women's side in their first international competition?
Speed is the number one thing that comes to mind. The shooting ability is really something that I was curious with different sticks, right? They're used to using the pocketless sticks in women's lacrosse, although they've gotten deeper and they've gotten more. But Ryan Wheeler, assistant coach, he is the stick wizard, and he showed me a couple texts from the women on the team, like, thanks so much for helping me, like, dial on my stick. So that is certainly a big piece of it, is getting used to that different style of shot. But their speed in transition. And I think the big, you mentioned blips, they came out against the Haudenosaunee and got punched right in the mouth. And I said that's the definition of getting punched in the face and seeing how you respond. And the Haudenosaunee took a physical game to them, kind of knocked them around in that first quarter, went up 4-1, and everyone's like, oh boy, what is going on? And then Allie Kennedy 3 straight transition goals. Like, oh, right, we're really fast. And it just looked like then they hit that second gear. They were pushing the pace in transition. They moved the ball quick, and they were finding gaps in that Haudenosaunee defense and kind of got right back into that rhythm. Team Canada, a whole new ball game. So neither of these teams, Canada, U.S., have seen each other. They are both in individual pools. Canada has not given up a goal yet, so their goalies have not been tested.
Yep.
United States had that test against Haudenosaunee, but then kind of were able to get to their up and down game and really extend. Neither team has faced a onslaught from another team's offense. It will be curious to see when it comes down to the gold medal match whose defense comes through, because that's going to be the difference maker on these fast, high-flying athletic offenses.
All right, so when, how, where, what are we watching? How are we watching here? What are the big ones to kind of put on the calendar? What are the dates that we're circling here to appointment viewing?
Semifinals Friday, gold medal games ESPN2, 1 o'clock for the women, 4:30 p.m. for the men's. It's going to be epic. ESPN2, Eastern Standard Time from Utica, New York, Adirondack Bank Center. Tune in.